For every shilling you spend, you are getting closer to your maker. Because you don't know where the next money is coming from. I ate cabbages for 3 months till I stopped eating cabbages to date. Nachukia cabbages like nonsense. At some point you start getting death wish. You say, I wish. Or someone tells you, oh, you know, I'll kill you, and you tell them, Chief, do you realize killing me is a solution? I was alive, but she cried for me like I was dead. So that's the time I realized our situation was dire, because I was like, so what are you crying about? I mean, as we are here, we don't feel like there's a problem. At first, I didn't even understand what architecture was. There was a very successful man in our constituency. He happened to be our MP, the late Aloch Polo. All my life, I knew that Aloch Polo was an architect, only to later learn he was actually a quantity surveyor. So he was my role model because of his flair, his reach, his well-being. I felt I wanted to be an architect, yes. Then it also so happened that my father put up a house, early 80s. And those days, if you wanted a house, you'd go to the Ministry of Works. Someone would give you a blueprint, most likely copied from someone else. So this blueprint was always somewhere lying around in the sitting room. And I was always fascinated with it. You know, I wondered how you draw such fine lines. I didn't even know there was something called stencils, which you used to write off the letters. So I would imagine that this is a very precise person who can write such letters with stencils. So through that fascination, I would always go back to look at that drawing over and over and over and over again. And I always wondered, how do you draw such a drawing? I didn't even know there's something called ammonia print. So I'm seeing the blue, so I'm like, how do you write with blue, which is so consistent? I didn't know you first draw on a tracing paper, then you do ammonia print. In the 80s, times were very hard. I remember, because my dad had a business which at some point went down. He had to move back to the farm. He became a church elder, but money was very scarce. I remember when I was joining Form 1, he had to really struggle to even get my fee to pay for me to join Form 1. I remember I couldn't even buy proper shoes. I had shoes which had outgrown, but we had to now, there's a way they would extend the shoe at the front. You can't believe it, but it works. I married very young. There were so many doomsayers. They said it will never work. You are too young. But looking with the hindsight, I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because it helped me to settle down and get focused very early. We left campus in '98, and that was at the height of Nyayo Hera. Now, unfortunately, the height of Nyayo Hera meant things were at their lowest point in this country. There were no jobs. The economy was shrinking. Many companies were laying off. Retrenchment was the order of the day. So you find yourself in a situation where you have a family and you must put food on the table. It literally means survival. It's a case of swim or drown, live or die. So you have to go out there and hustle and make ends meet. I went to Botswana. In Botswana, it was a real struggle, because when I landed in Botswana, I think I only had about equivalent of 5,000 Kenya shillings in my pocket. My wife was working for an airline, so I would get complimentary tickets. So I got a ticket to Johannesburg, got into a matatu, or the equivalent, rode to Gaborone. So here you are in a strange land with 5,000 shillings in your pocket. What it meant is that for every shilling you spent, you are getting closer to your maker. Because you don't know where the next money is coming from. The place is called Mogodishane. It's the slum of Gaborone. It's a single room in a tenement. They're long. And we share the room 3 people. And that room was very interesting because there was no furniture which was bought. We made all the furniture by hand. And we take the container, there's this timber they use in the containers when they're carrying cargo. So there was a place they were dumped. No one bothered about them. So we went and picked a few. We made a bed, made shelves. I wish I had pictures of that room. Made even a place to cook where we'd place our stove. And would survive largely on cabbages. I ate cabbages for 3 months. We would call it white on white because it's cabbage, white rice, white cabbage, white ugali. You could not afford beef. And even if you could afford it, you could not dare buy beef because you don't know where your next income is coming from. Every shilling you spend, a big cabbage was like 1 shilling. And that one you'd eat a whole week, the 3 of you. So we'd just live on cabbages. I ate cabbages for 3 months till I stopped eating cabbages to date. Nachukia cabbages like nonsense. I never want to see cabbages near me. I remember one time my wife came with my child to visit me, my firstborn child. And you know how all this time she imagined we were living some very nice life in Botswana. So when she landed and got to the slum where we lived, I've never seen her cry that much. So I always say, I was alive, but she cried for me like I was dead. So that's the time I realized our situation was dire, because I was like, so what are you crying about? I mean, as we are here, we don't feel like there's a problem. We've never felt miserable, because every morning we'd go out to Tamak and do for work. We never felt miserable. We felt this is what we had to go through to get to where we want to go. But she really cried miserably. So, of course, our neighbor had a bigger room, so he had 2 rooms. He had been there for a while. He was a tailor, so he gave us a room. We bought a room from him for that week to live in when she was around. At least she had some money. We went and bought a mattress. And at least for that week, life was a little better. And of course, she insisted we come back to Kenya. Then I told her, I cannot come back, because if I come back, I've not accomplished my mission. And Kenya, I had written 300 letters. There was no job. Trying to go back to Kenya, it's like you're jumping from the hot pan into the fire. So I told her, I cannot go back. And I told her my drive is that if I'm going to die, I will die out here looking. I'll die in search, but I'll not die sitting down at home. So just let me continue. So after a week, they came back. And like a miracle, that same week I got a job. The same week they came back home, I got a job. We were go-getters. We were like, we want a good thing, but there's a price to pay, and this is the price. And that's been my attitude throughout life, knowing that if you want a good thing, there's a price, and sometimes that price means self-sacrifice. Yeah, I knew my situation at home. I knew the state of my siblings. I just lost my mother. My mother died my week of graduation. May her soul rest in peace. Of course, during my graduation, we missed her a lot. Because, she's one of those people you'd have want to be around you when you're graduating. So I was in a situation where I knew my other 7 siblings depended on me. I have a wife, I have a child. So I knew I cannot sit to wait for that good thing to come. I knew I had to soldier on. I had to sacrifice myself. If I knew I had 5,000 shillings, I had to prolong it for as long as it could sustain me. Because also, I was not from the begging mindset where you'd have to go beg money from people. I knew I had to live within my means. So my 5,000 shillings, if I could stretch it for a whole year, so be it. So I was ready to do whatever it took to survive until I achieved my objective. I think for the first 7 years after campus, I never took lunch. I was this kind of person who was so driven. I would work from sunrise to sunset. I would be drawing by night until maybe about midnight, rising at 5 a.m., running to take care of my sites, and doing literally everything. I was the system, I was the driver, I was the messenger, I was the phone operator, I was the debt collector, I was the accountant. I would literally do everything. And for those first 7 years, I would think, because of that hard work, okay, that sweat, blood and broken bones, I got my breakthrough. And I would say that's the point now I built my offices and even godowns, which we are still using to date. Other than that, I would say professionally, in terms of an architect, my biggest achievement has been the design for the ultramodern library for Egerton University. That's a large project by any standards. When complete, it should be able to seat 8,000 students, and I believe it will be the largest in the region. As much as I've been successful, I've also failed as much. There are many things I've started that never worked. One of them is my construction business. I grew the business to a point where we were having 50 permanent employees, and at any one time we would be having 100 to 200 casual laborers, depending on what we were doing. For our permanent employees, we were paying at least 2 million every month, and for the casuals, upwards of 5 million every month. The business grew to a point where I felt it had outgrown me, so we had to do a transition. We had to put in structures, bring in people with better capability, management skills, younger than me, so that the business now would take off and even grow to a higher level. Unfortunately, that was not to be. So I ran the business for 10 years, and I let someone else take over for another 4 years. And in the 4 years, we made so much losses to a point where we had to think of what next. Since I was running my consultancy and my real estate business separately, it was like a tree. So when one branch of a tree dries up, the best solution sometimes is just to cut it. So we had to let go of the construction arm of the business. And I must say it was one of the most painful experiences for me. I nearly went into depression. In my whole life, I never even knew what depression is. I only learned later when now I had gotten out of it. Thank God for being a yogi, because I was already a yogi. So I would handle a lot of that pressure and stress. I only learned later now that if you know when you start getting death wish, that means you are depressed. Because I never knew about depression. So you see, at some point you start getting death wish. You say, I wish. Or someone tells you, oh, you know, I'll kill you, and you tell them, Chief, do you realize killing me is a solution? That probably if you killed me, I don't have to go through all this agony. So that I would say is one of my lowest moments, apart from losing my parents. But I learned a lot of lessons. I think I'm the wiser for it. One big thing I learned was that when you're choosing partners, maybe you should let someone else do it for you. Someone with more experience, someone like a mentor, doing maybe the same kind of business, but maybe has 10 or even 20 more years experience than you. That person may be better placed to choose for you, even your management, your partners, people who can now grow your business to the next level. Because I think I would have to take responsibility that I never made the right choices for the team that I felt could run the business. And that costed us heavily. Professions the world over are controlled and regulated by the same professionals. It occurred to me and many others a long time back that that's our responsibility, that no one else will build our industry for us. For example, I don't expect a doctor to come and build the construction sector for us, or to build the practice of architecture for us. It is up to us, our generation, to run the industry. For that reason, it takes that heart of service to come out here and try and make a difference and to grow the industry. Not all of us are willing to roll up their sleeves. Contrary to what many people think, this job, we do it free of charge. I am not paid for the 10 years I've served in AK. You do it out of your conviction, out of your belief that this is what we profess. This is our creed. This is what we believe in. Therefore, it's upon us to take the responsibility to control and develop our industry. And I decided to take that challenge. It is my vision. It's what I believe in. It's what the members agree with. And the reason why the members would vote for me, because they know there are certain things I stand for. I've been very consistent, and they know with me we can achieve some of the things I have said in my manifesto.